Hello and welcome everybody to this live chat with Jose Uribe. We're going to talk about queens tonight. We'll discuss queen development and acceptance, among other, queen-related stuff. Jose has been keeping bees for 13 years now and started his company with his wife Kelley in 2019. He sells thousands of queens per year and has spoken at many different beekeeping events across the country. So thanks for coming on tonight, Jose. Without further ado, can you give us a brief background with how you got started in beekeeping?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for the invite. I know we've been talking about this for a few months. I think maybe even a year, right? So
8 or 9 months, yeah.
yeah, something like that. Yeah. So glad it slowed down so we're able to get this live going. So for most of you that don't know who I am, my name is Jose Uribe. We're out of California. Our company is Uribe Honeybees. My journey as far as beekeeping, it started in 2008, I believe, when the housing market crashed. Got into bees as a part-time gig. So I never got an intro to like, hey, I'm want to have a hive in my backyard. It was a part-time gig straight into commercial beekeeping and running, thousands of hives. So that was my intro. It was, just put your boots on and let's rock and roll. So there, I got to learn a lot about the commercial aspect. Um, it was fast forward. Everything was already planned and directed, and I quickly was able to absorb all that information um, on that commercial level, which is good and bad, right? Because you don't get that intimacy that you do having that one hive in your backyard and get to knowing how bees are, and um, that was the downfall. The upside of things was just being a commercial beekeeper. I got to learn all the commercial industry standards, what it takes to start a business. That was like a priceless experience for us. We didn't do queen breeding in that outfit. So one thing that I saw that we were lacking was the ability to produce our own queens. I started learning more and more on my own on how to start a breeding program. I shadowed and learned a lot from really some of the commercial guys around here in Northern California, which we have a lot of great generational reputable breeders here in Northern California. We have this thing called, it's the Golden Triangle here in Northern California, and it spans from Redding, California to Orland, which is the bee capital of California, queen bee capital of California, to Orville. And in that small area there, it's known to produce some of the highest quality queen bees. And anyone that's watching, I'm not trying to, we're not trying to say California bees are the best. It's just generational. They have fine-tuned the things that they have here that make it ideal. The weather, the Mediterranean weather that we have, the climate here in Northern California is just ideal to produce queens. Quickly, I wanted to learn how to produce queen bees because my employer was buying queen bees. We were producing packages, bee packages. Him and I would run them to other parts in the Midwest, Wyoming, Nebraska, North, South Dakota, even parts of Montana. And we'd load up 1,500 packages, bee packages, and haul them. It was nonstop driving, 18-hour stretch to our first drop. And there I really got intrigued on, wow, there is a lot more into bees than what I first thought was just honey, right? When most people think it's just honey, there's bulk bees, there's queen breeding, there's pollination, there's so many different parts of beekeeping. It's just trying to find your niche, right? And the queen side of it, the science on that just really drew me. Learned a lot. Started learning about like people like Susan Kobe, Megan Mahoney, Dr. Stephen Shepard in Washington State University, Joe Latshaw. I've heard of him and saw some of his stuff. There's other breeders throughout the country, but as far as what I wanted to follow, I felt I needed to follow people that are the best in the industry, right? And so I learned queen breeding, and then I quickly developed a program for my employer on producing queen bees. So then he was able to produce queen bees and get more value for like his packages. Fast forward 2019, we branched off and started Uribe honeybees, and I felt that we need to focus on what I was good at, and that was queen production, queen breeding. So there's queen breeding and then there's queen production, right? So guys like, or people like Susan Kobe, Megan Mahoney, Joe Latshaw, David, Corey Stevens, those I would consider queen breeders, right? Because they're breeding for certain things. They have a goal. And queen producers, we produce queens, large amounts of queens. That we also have our queen breeding that we do in-house, right? But as far as, the queen breeding, I would say those guys educate themselves to that level where, they're breeding for purpose, right? And so we breed for, some of our product comes from like Megan Mahoney, Dr. Stephen Shepard. We bring that into our apiary to be able to produce queens for our customers throughout the United States. And that's pretty much it as far as, us. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much a little intro on who we are, who I am, and what we do.
There was a comment I thought you might enjoy, but really they are the best. This is some reference to Northern California, Queens.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yes. Yes. We take a lot of pride. I think, I won't say pride. We drive ourselves to master our craft, right? I think that's the goal. Whatever you do, you just have to push yourself to be better than you were yesterday. Not better than the next person, better than what you did. I think that's a good thing to aim for. Not comparing yourself or your product, just comparing yourself to your product yesterday and getting better every time.
Yeah.
So,
I heard Sue Kobe actually talk about that on a podcast maybe 3 or 4 years ago. We were talking about the difference between a breeder and a producer. Because a lot of producers will call themselves breeders, and it's a subjective term, but a lot of the ones that we'd consider breeders are also using AI insemination, which is not necessarily like if you use AI that means you're a breeder, but often those two things are correlated. And one's producing for high volume, and the other's really selecting less for a specific trait set.
Correct. Yeah. And and that's we cannot do it without the queen breeders. Queen producers, anyone could produce queens, but it's the quality of the queens, and we seek those people. Like we're involved. I'm a member of the California Bee Breeders Association. There's not that many guys in it, but if you like, there's a lot of research. Like our member fees go to certain things, research about bees. It goes to like Randy Oliver for research on Varroa. You have to be involved wherever you're at. Like, even you, I'm sure you're involved with your local bee club, or even YouTube community, right? You have to be involved in some kind of community in order to bounce around ideas and give give what you get, right? It's kind of, I think it's a good thing to live by. Is just always trying to add value to yourself and give some more than you're taking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's there. You're as a beekeeper, you're always. I feel like I'm always trying to push myself forward, and as I'm sure you know, one of the best ways is to do that is to gain experience and wisdom from other people, because there's things that they're going to have experience in that you may not, and so that can be very invaluable and not making some of the same mistakes they probably did at one point in time.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. If it could be anything too, it's like, what would you say your biggest mistake is in beekeeping, right? Just, I'm sure it pops right up. Or is there a lot of mistakes?
try to narrow it down to one. It's just, for me, being able to execute plans that I plan ahead of time. That's probably the hardest part for me. I'm really good at pivoting when I don't get stuff done or things go wrong, but I'm not so good at I'll make the plan, but sticking to the plan is a different kind of thing for me.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm sure you've heard it. Bees really don't have a plan. They have a direction, right? They have a direction. And our job as a beekeeper is to guide them, right? And we can guide our bees a certain direction, and just by manipulation, if it's we want more brood, more stimulation, we thin our syrup, right? We want to add weight, it's the same procedure, but there's just a little, we're swaying one way to another, and that's just what beekeeping is. We're not going to be on track all the time. And so I don't know, it's what you said earlier is, trying to ask other people of their ventures or their trial and errors is great, because it could save you time, money, and with bees, that's huge. Yeah. But I will say, those lessons, those hard lessons, I would not trade them for the world, because you have to actually go through some of these things to understand. Like, I will never check on my or not check on my incubator again, because there it goes, 1,500 cells. So it's just little things that you just, as a beekeeper, as for me, they're invaluable. They're things that it's a part of the process. You have to trust the process, and you're gonna learn or gain something from it, no matter what. So
yeah, they're those ones where you're like, yeah, I'm really never doing that again. Just not, it's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. I refuse to ever, maybe you let it slip one time, but it strengthens your focus. Like it brings it into full attention. So it's something you maybe focus on that one detail a little bit more, because you've had that experience to know that, if you don't focus on that detail, bad things will happen.
Yeah, definitely. But and we always got to just stay, trying to draw, what did we gain, right?
Yeah.
Just, not what did we lose, what did we gain?
Exactly.
Always that upside of everything. I was just thinking today, I was cutting cells when we were talking earlier, and I was thinking, well, we got a lot of queen cells coming off, and not a lot of homes for them. The market is saturated with queen cells, and we produce product, and we don't want to, if there's friends that need it, here's 400 queen cells, we're not going to use them. So I was telling my wife, well, we have a few hundred nukes, and we have some bulk bees there already. Let's go make 250 nukes just to make them. This year for us, it's been, I would say, as we continue to grow, and you'll go through this as you grow, if it's your honey sales, whatever it is that your niche is, right? I'm not quite sure what your niche is, but whatever that is, and you continue to grow yourself and your product, your demand is going to grow. And then you're going to have to find that medium where how much can I grow without taking away from the quality, right? The quality of the product. And that could be anything, queens, honey, wax products, anything. And, we're at 4,200 nukes. I don't want to grow more. One of the main reasons is, it's just labor. It's, I don't know what's going on with everyone. Just a lot of people don't want to work as much as they, but we take it in stride and we try to figure things out. So if it's for us, keeping the same number, but we're only producing a certain amount for people, and we're kind of caught in a bind, like, well, we're unable to produce what is requested from us, and it's a good problem. And as you grow as a beekeeper, I think you'll find yourself in that same position where, how much do I want to grow? Because I do want to, produce more honey for my customers, or I just got this store, so it's growing pains, definitely. So, but it's great to be able to have that family business too. So I don't know if you ever want to come out to California and need a job, so we'll train you. You can wrangle some queens with us.
All right. I might have to take you up on that. Yeah, I mean, now you don't even have to do the grafting. So,
are you saying you graft?
I do. Yeah.
Well, there we go. That's it. Full-time gig right there.
Yeah, I've been grafting. I tried in 2020, and I thought it was because I took 40 minutes to graft like 10 cells, and I was like, oh, they just dried out, and they might have, but there was also like 1,000 bees in there, to take care of the cells, if that. So it wouldn't have really mattered anyway if it was really the grafting. But since 2021, I've been trying to churn them out. I got 58 right now in 2 builders. So next week is the splitting and the selling of the queen cells. So we'll see how it goes. I'm interested to see.
Yeah. So do you do your builders queenless or queen right?
I've tried pretty much every builder under the sun at this point.
Okay.
But right now I tried the Corey Stevens method. I modified it, so it didn't work quite as well because I changed it. But he just pulls the queen in a nuke and then drops the cells in 24 hours later. His first take, not quite as good because there's more larvae. His second take is the best, and then the third one is still pretty good, but they're not quite in the same prime condition. So since as I said, I didn't follow my plan and I had to pivot, so I ended up pulling the queen the day before. My goal was I was just going to pull her 8 days before and then graft into it and let them have cells for those 7-8 days.
Yeah,
and that way it would give the similar effect as his second graft, but couldn't get the bees back to the house to get everything set up. So things change, but I still got. It took me 2 days of grafting, but hey, it happened. So it's done now.
Absolutely. So yeah, we do queenless. Queen. That's the only way we do it. And I've tried the queen right, where we have it above like an excluder, then we remove it. But the percentages have seemed to be. We haven't quite got that down yet. I haven't given up on that. It's an easy way because you have that queen down below. You're always having bees being developed. But for us, it's just we have the most success doing queenless, cell builders.
Starter finisher, yeah.
Starter finisher. That's what we do.
Yeah, I spent a ton of effort and time last year getting my, I went, pulled them off, grafted, they accept the cells, put them back over the excluder. And I did a bunch of manipulations to get it just right. And I did get 57 out of 59. So I was able to really
Right.
yeah, I was really happy with that take. It was the best one I've ever gotten by far, and especially on so many cells. Um, but it's so much work, and I just couldn't really manage it. My car broke down about a month ago. So actually a month and a half now.
Yeah.
And it's in the shop, but there's just not that many shops that have open appointments. So I don't have it back yet. But so I tried this new method, didn't work quite as well. I didn't expect it to. And
Yeah.
but I got enough cells. And like you said, it's like you can focus on every little mistake you've made in the past, but
Yeah.
that doesn't do anything for you. Like it's a complete time suck. It's just wasting time to think about it.
And the same method is not going to work all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like we like to look at all these details. First graphs of the year. I always look at the temperature of the lows of that morning. That'll determine how strong that cell builder needs to be, right? Because then they're going to cluster in the early or in the evenings, early mornings when it's really chilled. They're going to cluster. They're going to leave those outside cell cups bare, unattended to, and there goes our percentage. Let's see, what do you think are the most important factors in queen cell development?
I thought that was on topic here.
Yeah, that is a great question. So the main thing I would say is nutrition, right? You got to have the best cells that you're going to have are going to be in the spring. That's just my opinion. Bees are healthy. Bees are populated. Natural pollen coming in. We do also put, we sub it up because we want those resources to be, and we want abundance of resources. We do put a frame of pollen. We make sure that there's a good amount of good young nurse bees, and then we have older bees also that are going to develop the wax, because we want to make sure that wax is being developed, and the young bees don't do it, but the older bees don't tend to the larvae, right? So you just got to have a good balance of each bee, and nutrition, I would say, is on the top of the list as far as the main factor in queen cell development. I would also say another is grafting. Just the right age larvae is another big factor. In order to make sure that cell gets the proper nutrition, it can't be too old, because it's missing out on a small little hours of window of special nutrition that it could get if it's the right the right age larvae. And Susan Kobe talks. She has a talk that goes really well with as far as age and development of queen cells. So that's what we believe is nutrition. Make sure you have good amount of wax builders and nurse bees to be able to produce good quality queens. So I would say those are the two factors.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I could be wrong here. Is it day 12 or 13 where bees start to produce wax? I think it is. It's something like that.
14, I think it's like 12. You could be on the money.
Yeah,
10, 12, 13. Dude, I have so many different numbers. I have it on my notes, but but I mean, that's kind of, you're always going to have that kind of age in there. I think the key is the young bees, right? Yeah. You want to make sure you have the young bees in there if you're producing
royal jelly.
The royal jelly, yeah.
Yeah, because they clean out their cell, and then that's when they transition into the royal jelly. So I think it's around like day 3 or 4. So having those bees that are between 3 and, let's say they produce wax, I think for like 5-6 days. So it's something like, if you have the majority of your bees in that builder between like 3 and 18, that's probably your sweet spot. You obviously can't control it exactly, but
Yeah.
I also had like, a story popped into my head last year when I was doing those 57 grafts. I noticed that one cell was not capped when most of the others were. And when I came back finally to pull the cell, that was the biggest one, which is illustrating exactly what you were saying. That one,
Yeah.
probably the smallest one that I grafted, the youngest one I grafted it. And so the bees had, maybe an extra 12 hours, maybe even less. But that one cell was way bigger than the other, or it wasn't one of the
Yeah.
ones where it fell down, but it was marginally larger than the others. It was noticeable with like a naked eye. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and that's probably exactly what had happened. It's a little more
Yeah.
time, a lot more resources to go around for that one cell, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
when you have that, and I'm sure you've had it because we've had it before, where it's for some reason it's a windy day. We don't prime our cell cups. I saw there was a question on how do we
Yeah.
prep our
Yeah.
cell cups. We
I
don't
was
prep
gonna.
them. We do here for commercial guys, mostly here in Northern California. We just do a
Yeah.
dry graft. It's straight onto the JZBZ cups. Some guys, some larger outfits, they still use the old school method with the wax. But to us, it's just another process. We have to put those into a cell builder or something to get cleaned out, polished. We call it polished. Then remove it so you can graft into it because now it's been polished. Rather than with JZBZ, it's ready to go. Do I feel like priming is helpful? I believe it's really helpful. And you can prime them. Some people will prime them. They'll water down some royal jelly. Then the bees will, they'll clean it up a little bit and start putting in that royal jelly, around that grafted larvae that you place. But for us, dry has worked really well. We don't. It's I call so there we have a grafter and then we have a runner. So like Kelley, my wife, she does all our grafting, and I'm pretty much like the labor guy. So I have to put those bars, put them on the frame, and I have to run them to the cell builder, which I love to do because it gives me that chance to be able to look and move things around on cell builders. Like we run 60 cell builders. Okay, so each cell builder will usually put around 2 frames typically, um, and having to do that, if I see something that's wrong, I'm able to correct it. Um, it's hard to train folks um, on certain things. It's just it takes years.
Yeah. It's
Some
just
things
like
it just
so
takes years
specific.
to be able to just if it's the sound, the bees are making a sound, the bees are moving a certain way. It just it takes it really takes some time. It's not something that really can be taught. It's just being in that moment with those bees for so many years that you develop this like ability to find problems by listening, by looking, just behavior of the bees. But yeah, I'm the runner, and my Kelley's the grafter, and she's a great grafter. Oh, man, funny story. So uh, Kelley, Kelley and I started dating. She was fascinated with the bees when I was working at this commercial outfit, and she would wait around for us to either go on our dates or just go somewhere. She'd come and she'd watch me graft, and she wanted to try it, so she tried it. It Her graft was pretty good for her first time, and from there she just once we started our own company, she didn't want me to be. In other words, she thought I was slow, right? So, and I think I'm fast. She thought I was slow, and so she would help me. She would help me. So then we'd tag team these graphs, and next thing you know, she is. By the time I'm done with 1 bar, she has completed 2. So like she is impressively fast, and her takes are really good. Um, and she doesn't have a beekeeping background, which is, I'm blown away. But, you know, and this is where I'm going to say, men, we're good at what we do. We got, we look good and we have muscles, right? But the finesse that a woman has, they are so slick with the hand movements of being able to scoop larvae. And that's what I will say, that, they are good at it. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it is very much a fine motor skill, and it's kind of interesting because I actually have pretty. I mean, I have all right hand-eye coordination, but like if we're talking about really fine motor skill, not really a strength of mine, I would say, like at all. Um,
yeah.
I'm passable at it. Like I can do it. Like there's, if I have to figure out something, how to do something, I'm going to figure it out. And so that was the case with grafting. I wasn't good at it, but if there's a need, I'm going to figure out how to do it. And I have, but it's not something that really comes super easily to me. Like I've been grafting for 3 years. I
Yeah.
think I did 70 cells on Tuesday. I think it took me like 45 minutes or something. So I wasn't like super, super slow, but I wasn't like flying by any means. And
Yeah.
so, I've gotten a little bit better each time, but it's still not something that I'm great at, even though I'm good enough that it works out. But
So I have to ask, what are you producing all these cells for? Are you selling the cells, or?
so as you said, as I've grown bigger, met more people, increased everything, I've started to create more connections with beekeepers. So
Nice.
I'm selling 20 of them at least, and then I'll market some more. If I sell more, that's great. If not, whatever. And then I'm using 25 of them for nukes. I've got 15, full-size colonies, including the cell builders. I'm going to split the cell builders down at the end of the graft. And
Okay.
so I should easily be able to make 25 nukes and use 25 of the cells that way. I think I had 58 that took, and selling 20. Someone that I keep bees with, she'll get 3 of them, and then we'll see how many of the rest of them I can sell. But that's kind of the running plan right now.
Okay. So when you introduce your cells into your nukes, what does that nuke look like? I mean, is it 2 frames and then resources on the side, or how do you start your nukes off?
Pretty much, my goal is each one to have 2 solid frames of capped brood and a frame of honey and pollen. I've had a fair amount of success with that. I find that if you get enough bees in initially to keep the brood warm, because it still gets really we've kind of gotten past that point, but like last year when I split on like the 25th of May, it got down to 38 degrees the next night.
Oh man, that's scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough. I shook in a ridiculous amount of bees and I still couldn't get enough to save all the brood. But this year, thankfully, it's not looking quite as chilly at night. We haven't had a frost since late April, but yeah, I like to go with 2 frames of capped brood, 1 frame of honey, and as long as that brood, I'm able to get enough bees in there to keep that brood warm initially, they just absolutely explode once that queen comes back. It's one of my favorite things. It's just so fun to see every time.
Yeah, have it come back and it's
just
yeah.
I would actually have the problem because last year I was running 3 frame mating nukes and doing 1 frame of capped brood, and I would have the problem that the bees there wouldn't be that many bees in there, but they would still produce. She'd fill up the middle frame and probably 2 sides, and so I would have 2 frames of brood in a 3 frame mating nuke, but there weren't that many bees in there. They were just really productive for how many were there, and so if I pull the brood, I have to find bees somewhere else. Otherwise, the brood just died. Because there was I could not get enough bees out of there because they're just so productive. Like there was maybe 1,000, 3,000 bees in there, but they were producing 2 full frames of brood, it's just insane.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah.
Yep. Comment here from Abigail: strive to be better. Once you're better, do better.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely. And I think I had the number. Yeah, 12 to 20. I was right about what I was thinking. It's queen rearing, just like many things in beekeeping, it's just an endless rabbit hole to go down. You can always learn more about it no matter what happens.
Yeah, no matter what, you're gonna learn what's going on, Brian.
Brian.
Yeah, I would say my biggest, man, I've had so many successes and failures. I just don't know. I would say our biggest failure that I've had is I would say not executing timing boxes when we do graphs. I think that's huge. That could save you a lot of, you know, I would say heartache, right? Because when you come back and you grafted that one that's just too big, right? And she hatches out and destroys everything else, or starts to go to town on, yeah. So I think for us, executing a timing box is something that has saved us a lot of time, and being able to get everything on a good, fine schedule, right, where everything's going to be hatching. You know, we know exactly when it's going to happen, and there's no hiccups there. Um, so we're able to time it really well, pull them, put them in our incubator, and then just we don't have any. I mean, from time to time we'll have something that happens, right? Because we have our cell builders, we have them in this big, great big ranch, and in this ranch, I think it's like 800 acres, and so we have a cell builder yard, and then I would say about a quarter mile we have some mating yards, and let's see, cell builders, regular yards in between, and then we have mating yards. Um, from time to time, especially here in California, as we get to that spike in temperature, we run these styrofoam mini nukes. And if you guys don't know what those mini nukes are, it's just a miniature styrofoam uh, box, a beehive that's used for production of queen bees. Some people will run 4-ways. That's a 4-way shallow. Gives them more time. If you know, some guys like that. Some guys. Um, there's so many different types of nukes to be able to produce queens, but ours, we just focus on the production side of it, and we have the styrofoams. So once in a while in the summer, when that first spike of temperature reaches us, these bees start to panic because they're populated. They're like, man, it's hot. They're trying to fan, and they just take off. So then that one nuke that starts to swarm away, and it's an incredible thing to see. It's incredible, but also you're like, I'm in panic mode because I'll be out there catching. That one that swarms will trigger another one, then another one. Next thing you know, you have 30 to 40 nukes absconding and just leaving. And I've heard that, you know, you can grab some pot and pound it, or I have no idea, this myth or where it's going to tell the bees to go back home. I have no idea. But definitely my hooting and hollering and screaming and yelling did not work. So all I did was I started seeing these bees fly out. I was scrambling, just shutting doors, just shutting them, just so we don't lose the queen. Come back the next day and just harvest queen before she can get away. And that's what kind of tends to happen in California when the temperatures rise. We get a lot of swarming with our nukes, and it's a pain. But for us, being able to equalize, and for those that don't know what equalizing is, just moving brood around so you don't get overpopulation, has been helpful for us.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard of that happening where you got a multiple nuke swarm. I've never heard of it happening because of it, like a heat swarm. I heard, just normal swarming if you're in a nuke yard. Someone showed a video where they pulled 9 queens out of one swarm. Have you ever been able to like track down that swarm and pull out all the queens before they kill each other and the bees kill their different ones?
Yeah. When you first see it, you'll start to see that cloud just hone into another nuke. And then those bees start to come out, start attacking the queen. They don't let her in, so you'll see that little ball. Have you ever seen them balling a queen?
I'm trying to think. I've seen them ball a queen cage, but never just like straight up the queen, I think.
Yeah, it is the wildest thing, man. Somewhere in our Instagram, I know I have a video of it, or I'll have to get one up. It's literally a ball, and they're not even they're just being aggressive towards that queen. So it's like just having a golf ball, and you could literally just throw it up and just catch it. I mean, I don't know who I was with one of our employees. I was like, hey, check this out, catch, but I have had that happen where it's just multiple swarms from different nukes, and you see it just covered. It's a black rug of bees, and you see balls everywhere, and you're just having to pick them. And unfortunately, with those, that that the queens are good, you just can't risk to be able to. We just keep those queens to ourselves, and just that's kind of what you just have to do. It's just you don't know what's the damage. They overheat her, because that's what the balling is. They're just trying to kill her with generating that heat. So, Jose, how do you build your nukes for mating yards? How do I build my nukes for mating yards? So how do I start them? Is that the question? Or
I think he's saying like, what bees, how do you get them into those mini mating nukes? What's your strategy with that?
Okay, so here in Northern California, a lot of guys, this is kind of the industry standard, is we start them with bulk bees. Bulk bees, that's just in pollination here in California. We have everybody and their mom comes to California for almond pollination.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an abundance of bees available. So like for us, we get a screaming deal on bees. So we have vendors that we've built relationships with. We buy bulk bees. We buy bees around $7 a pound, which is unheard of, right? But it's just so we get them pretty cheap, and we use bulk bees to start up our nukes. And we have like these cold rooms or fans, swamp coolers rolling to keep things nice and cool. And then that's how we use bulk bees. And everything's like typically foundation when we first start them up. Every year it's the same routine, because you can't overwinter a nuke, unfortunately. Towards the end of the harvest, what we do is the last queens we catch, we harvest, we let all the brood hatch out, and we'll bring in a couple singles into those mating yards, shake the bees out, close the doors, load them up on the truck. So you'll have a bunch of just chaos, really. But they'll eventually make themselves find those singles that we've laid out, find their home, and it doesn't have a queen. So what we'll do, we'll introduce a queen as soon as everything's settled down. Some guys here in California also start them out in the field, really because they have their bee yards there. They're shaking their bulk bees, and they scoop them and set them out in their yards. But we don't do it that way. We have the shop that we do it all in, and it kind of works for us. And then from there, we take them out in the evening, we'll take them out to the yards where they need to go.
Yep. When you do all that combining, do they start pooping everywhere?
So they don't poop everywhere. When we do open the doors, they will go clean out, but we do feed them supplement in the feed, which is complete. It's a product by Dr. What's his name? Joe, I believe it's Dr. Carlson. He's out of here in Northern California. He develops this it's a supplement feed. It's called Complete Bee, and it has has that product Nosivit to be able to just help with the nosema spores, so bees aren't going backwards, being locked up in a nuke. So it would be the same thing as having rain for 7 days. It's not going to be harmful for the bees, but you also don't want them to be all plugged up. Once they're in flight, you want to be able to have those bees be able to just clean out really well, and that's why we feed supplement in our feed while they're locked in.
Yeah. The reason why I asked that is the bees had been flying like normal, and I was combining mating nukes and pulling queens, and I happened to park my car like pretty much right in the middle, and the bees just started pooping everywhere when I was combining them. There's no nutritional stress. The bees were fine. You know, I even had Nosema test results, not because of that event, but I had them a few weeks ago from a yard that was the half mile away.
Yeah.
Very low spore counts. It was just, they were just, when I was combining them, they were like, what's going on, and pooping everywhere.
Yeah.
It was weird. Yeah.
You know, this is, and I'm sure you, I don't know if you've already gotten to that point where I'll look at my truck and see, like, how does the poop look? Because I'm curious to see, okay, is there something that I need to do? Is their poop healthy? You know, sometimes the poop is stringy. Sometimes you could see these little specks, or if they have nosema, you can really tell a lot by their poops. Is it a dark poop? Is it a light poop? It's wild, but I always pay attention to those details also to make sure that my bees are healthy. And it's just a part of the job, right? To be able to look at everything. I guess that's why they call us beekeepers, because we have to keep these bees. That's our job.
Yeah.
And I really do. I take our job serious. Because this is what we do for a living. This is our family business, and everything that we do with our bees, there's a purpose. Every task, everything we have a goal, and we have to know how to get there, right? Our goal is to make sure that we keep the most bees alive for pollination. And so we have bees to be able to produce queens for the following spring. So it just keeps going every year. Oh man, that's a lot of work. I'm just sorry. I had a moment like, oh my gosh, we're barely halfway through right now. So it's been a tough year, man. We've had good weather starting the year, and then it just kind of, it's been a wacky year. And I don't know if you guys have seen kind of the weather, just kind of, it's been weird. I would say the last 2 or 3 years, it's just been abnormally bad, I guess. I don't know how to put it, but this spring has been great for us. Like every season, there's those challenges, but we've been trucking through. We're just looking forward to growing our numbers now. Try to eliminate some of those. For us, we buy around $35,000 worth of bulk bees, and we want to eliminate that cost. So we have to produce more bees, or start more beehives. So we need to get our numbers up, so we eliminate that cost. And you're not really eliminating that cost. You're adding a little more cost up front, right? Yeah, because we're adding some cost. We have to feed them now. We have our equipment, and as you know, equipment's like outrageous right now.
Yeah.
Even building your own equipment is it's still, you're building it better, but it still costs a lot. Trying times, my friend.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's always a new challenge coming, as you said. It's just, what is it this year? That's the question. You're always pivoting. You're always trying to figure out what's next. And that's just, I guess, the life of a beekeeper.
Yeah. Where does your guys' season start to, like, when you say, okay, I need to get my bees dialed in because season's coming to an end? What is that? When is your guys'
coming to an end? Last inspections typically like last week of September.
Okay.
Yeah. I can push it to first week of October most years. There's most years there's a 60-degree day there, but I like to have it all wrapped up. Everybody, not literally in wraps, but all combined and set away for as far as inspection work by like the last week of September. So that period, I'm really thinking about wintertime starting in like early July for me.
Yeah.
That's when I'm like, all right, it's time. Mites need to be dead. Everybody needs to be requeened because I know it's coming. I just know I can't lose sight of the goal.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually longer than I imagined. I don't know why I imagined. Maybe because you guys are way over here, huh? In the corner.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Is your guys' winter pretty brutal there?
It's all relative, but we have had days in the last 10 years that I've lived here where it's gotten to negative 40. Actually, last February, it got to negative 40 with wind chill overnight.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
and there were some parts of Maine where it got to negative 80 with wind chill.
Okay, man. Yeah, you guys can have that. So, okay, what are the most important factors in queen introduction? So now this is probably one of those things that it can look different with everybody. Now,
Yeah.
for us, I have found that the most successful introductions for us, it comes from the first thing is like how my queen bees, when we keep them in a bank, in a queen bank, and that's usually a queen bank that has a lot of nurse bees, um, open brood, cap brood, just a lot of bees in there to be tending to our queens. So that's where it starts for me, right? That the bees are being tended to properly. Once I remove that queen to put it into a new queenless hive or a new split, whatever that looks like, right? Um, no, every cage that I have has a candy tube. That candy tube is very, you just never know what you're going to get, right? Because now we don't produce the candy tube, we buy it from another producer. So you have to always pay attention to that candy. And that's one of those things that I tell everybody and all of our customers is that candy. Um, you have to make sure it's not too hard, it's not too soft. If it's too hard, you want to dip it in a little water, right? Just for a minute, just to soften that candy. If it's too hard, we like to put masking tape. Now,
It's too
depending,
soft, you mean?
yeah, if it's too soft, we like to put masking tape. It could be one time, it could be two times. It depends how soft it is, and depending on the bees that I'm gonna put that queen. If those bees, I'll set that queen on there just so I can know what's their behavior like, right? I'll
Yeah.
set that queen and I make my rounds, doing other work. I come back, and if I see those bees being aggressive towards that queen, I already know, okay, I need to double wrap it with a little thumbtack. I just poke a small little pin-sized hole,
Mm-hmm.
and then I know, okay, this one here is going to need 24 hours minimum, or it's going to need 72 hours. So that's my window. I don't want to go past 72 hours, but I also don't want to go before that 24-hour of being queenless. Um, Once that 24-hour mark hits for us, that queenless hive should be ready to accept that new queen.
Mm-hmm.
And how we introduce her is how we like to do it is I'll move around um, the brood to wherever I'm going to put that queen. I want everything right in the middle because we'll sometimes put a can up on top, and you have to pay attention, make sure that syrup's not dropping right onto that
Yeah.
queen.
Yeah.
Move it to the side, whatever. Or if you have inside feeders, a lot of our equipment does have inside feeders too. So we like to keep open brood on at least one side to be able to draw those young bees towards that queen. And you're not going to get that with a sealed brood.
Yeah.
Introducing a queen to the sealed, if you only have sealed brood, you're not really, you just have bees keeping that brood warm. You're not drawing those young bees in there. So what we're trying to do is draw the young bees, and then we like to feed at the same time that queen has been introduced, to draw the old foragers to be able to start working and putting resources away, because we don't want any aggressive activity towards that queen. That allows that time for that colony to get spread around, her pheromone, which is another big factor in a queens, right? An introduction to queens is you want good mated queens, because the bees will identify her if she's not. They'll take her out, they'll kill her, supersede, if they're able to. So it's just, it's hard to answer this question because there's so many things that play into it, right? But if on a perfect world, recap is open brood on one side, maybe a little bit of sealed. She's going to go in between there. I always tape up every single queen. I tape up at least one time because of our area. We get warm. That candy softens up a little bit. So if they release her too fast, I mean, that's a problem. That can be a problem. And I've never had a queen not accepted if she was in there too long, right? I'll come back and I'm like, oh, they haven't chewed her out. So then I manually open up that screen and just let her walk out, close it up. I don't need to watch her walk around. I'll come back and, maybe around 7 days at the earliest. So
had one question here. So what you found is that you get the highest percentage in that 24 to 72 hour, right?
Yes.
How much, and if you have, what has been your experience waiting longer, trying to make them take a longer than 72 hours? Do you find it diminishing results after that point?
No, it's just because for us, we try to stick to a certain program. Now I have had where I'm like, oh, Jose, I forgot to put queens in that yard over in, this area. And it's been like 7-10 days or something crazy. And I have, I'll go in there and I'm like, oh man, this cell's about to hatch. So I just go start knocking cells down. And the percentage is still pretty high. It's just for us waiting that long. We don't see a difference. So we'd rather get that queen in there and get her introduced and get her rolling rather than waiting. There's some guys that will wait until they have no option, right? And they'll knock all the cells down. And now the bees have nothing to do other than accept that queen. And that's another method, but it's just not the method that we go, right?
So to clarify, but what if you drop them in what? Do you put them in right when you kill the queen, or do you wait 24 hours?
No, I wait. Yeah, I wait minimum 24 hours.
So let's say if labor wasn't an issue, do you think from your experience, sometimes what I'll do is, wait the 24 hours, I'll put in the queen cage with duct tape, and then I'll wait maybe 4 or 5 days, then I'll pull the duct tape, then I'll let them chew her out just to give her a little bit of extra time in there.
Yeah.
And so I was just curious to hear your thoughts on that, because I know it's more labor, so it doesn't make sense. It makes more sense for you to put the masking tape, double it, poke the hole, come back 10 days later. That's the simplest thing. Do you think you could potentially get higher acceptance waiting longer, or do you have any experience with that?
I don't have a lot of experience doing it that method. What I try to avoid is having them, because I don't have for us, I don't have the time to go back. But if you're saying if labor wasn't an issue, I think I would still stick to what I do right now, just because my acceptance is so high.
It's not worth changing. Yeah.
It's not worth changing.
Yeah.
Now, if I had 3 or 15, 20 hives in my backyard, yeah, any opportunity that I got, if I can go play with my bees or go look at my bees or just dig into my bees, I would definitely do it. Like we have a few beehives that are maxes in the backyard in the garden, which I love having because that kind of brings me to be able to like enjoy the bees.
Yep.
So
Yep.
other than what we have here in the house, I don't really. I enjoy what we do, but it's just
You're
a
not stopping
big,
to think about it.
yeah, it's just a big production that it's work. It's work that we love to do, but it's definitely we don't have time
You got to be on point.
to just like so that's one of the reasons why like we don't develop the content that we used to, just because Kelley's on board with the queen production with me side by side, and we miss. That's one thing that I wanted to have this opportunity to let everybody know, whoever's on, that we just miss being able to put like what we're doing on YouTube. So I've had to find other ways, in which has been Instagram, because it's quick, it's fast, it's easy, and YouTube for us has just been. It's really another job. I mean, that,
Yeah.
it's like editing content. It's just a lot of work, and it's just really challenging for us. But back to the queens, I wouldn't change what I do, just because of my percentages are outrageously high in acceptance.
What are we talking? Like 90, 95%?
Oh man! So like last year, I introduced 600 queens. I think I was at 92%.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what I would expect. Yeah. That's very nice. Yeah. What do you? It's harder to tell with cells, but what would you guess? How well do you do on cells as far as acceptance goes?
It all depends on whether Mother Nature will really mess your. It could be everything. Everything could be perfect, but when like we introduce, I mean, we have 4,200 nukes. So as far as acceptance, we are not doing well if we get lower than 90. Like to me, like we're failing, and we have to find the problem. But sometimes you have to accept that Mother Nature can bring, if it's the bad weather, if it's the heat, all those things play a factor in the acceptance of that queen cell. And one thing that we have noticed, that if we miss, how would I say, if we miss that window where we didn't get drop that cell and they've already started to develop their cell, they'll reject our cell and they keep their own. I don't know if you've ever had that happen to you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're dropping cells as soon as you pull the queen. That's been your preferred.
Yeah. So for us, we harvest one day. The next day we're dropping cells. We don't go past 72 hours. And if we do, we're knocking down queen cells, which is a lot of work.
A lot more time. Yeah.
So we just that's why schedule is pretty big. We got to make sure we execute.
Yep. I figured we're pretty much out of time here, but I figured we'd close on this question here. Jose, what selection factors are most important to you, and do you focus on mite fighting genetics?
Yes. So we work with a lot of AI queens for that particular stock, right? So New World Carnolians, we get that stock, and that comes from one of our vendors is Strachan, which they got developed by Susan Kobe. If anyone is not aware, Susan Kobe developed the New World Carnolian in collaboration with Valerie Steverson and Strachan Apiaries. So that's one of our stocks that we use, and that's we feel is pretty resilient. How would I say it? Resistance. As far as what's really resistant, I mean, it's hard to say, right? I think in some shape, way, or form, everybody has to treat their bees at some level to have a successful apiary, and that's just my opinion. Um, we do on in-house, what we do is freezing brood with liquid nitrogen, and that's in order to be able to find hygienic behavior within that colony. Now, hygienic behavior can be a Carnolian, it could be an Italian, but since we're selecting in-house breeders, we do that with our Italian stock or a hybrid stock, and that's just stock that we have developed in-house. That comes from, if it's breeders or daughters from our Caucasian hybrids from Megan Mahoney, or New World Carnolian daughters that we have followed through the years, and we just kind of break them down to fine tune what we're looking for. Like these are the genetics we want, but we're lacking traits, and we're introducing different breeders and trying to just fine tune, right? But as far as what we do our best to make sure that all of our breeders have some form of resistance. It's not 100% resistance, and I'll be the first to say that our queens aren't resistant. They have levels of resistance towards mites, and that comes in what we feel is really good is a hygienic behavior where they're cleaning themselves and grooming each other and attacking the mites. So, and even opening up brood if they have to clean out, a mite that they sense is there. So, it's hygienic behaviors pretty key for us here, and mostly Northern California. I'm sure there's a lot of other breeding programs throughout the nation that focus or evolve at some way hygienic behaviors involved in their breeding program.
Yep. Yeah, it's it's how do you dial it in for each breeder just doing their own thing. And you mentioned there's even briefly, like there's grooming, there's what UBO tests for example, or the Harbo assay, that's more about stopping mite reproduction rather than killing the mice on the adults. So there's a million different ways you can go, and it's just kind of picking a path. I had this one last question. I figured you can answer this quick. How long do you let the queen lay before you pull them?
So this one's pretty tricky. So what we do is usually our first round of queens is 21 days, just because we need to, they're the first round of queens that need to be vetted longer, right? 21 days. After that, we like to stay at the 18 days, which is really tricky because we have mini nukes. And it's really challenging because they overpopulate quick.
So fast, yeah.
So it's just manipulating our circle that we have, which we have, we usually lay them out in 6 packs as we're moving groups, and we're just manipulating frames around so we can make sure that we're able to leave them for those 18 days. Because at 14, like a lot of guys that run the styrofoam mini nukes, at 14, 15 days, I mean, that queen is barely laid a couple eggs.
Yeah, almost nothing. Yeah.
And you got to let those ovaries develop. And, every queen, I don't care. And this is my opinion. Every queen at some level that's being produced, if it's in the mini nuke or in a 5-frame nuke, the lane's going to be great. But did she mate with enough drones, right?
Yeah.
That's where we saturate our drone stock. Like for every 1,000 nukes, we run, gosh, let's see, around 150 to 200 beehives.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's just to be able to saturate. And we have drone frames in about 50% of those, and they already developed drones in the summer or in the spring anyway. So it's just, I think that's one of the things that's important to us, is make sure that they are saturated with drones, because at any level size nuke, like they lay good at first, but how long are they going to keep laying like that? And that the mating has a big part of that. So,
yeah. Well, we'll close it out here at hour 10. I'm so thankful that you came on tonight, Jose.
Dude, yeah.
Where can people find you, and is there anything else you'd like to tell us before we head off here?
Yeah, well, first I want to say thank you, dude. I really appreciate it. I'm glad this worked out. And I'm hoping we drew a crowd to you. And so if you guys are on YouTube, we are the California Beekeeper on YouTube. But if you're looking for us, and we put up a lot of shorts because it's easy for us to do. And we're on all social media platforms under the California Beekeeper. And if you want really live stuff, you can find us on Instagram. We are always on there. I'm always putting stuff on there because it's really fast and easy. And you could probably gain a lot of value on our Instagram, because we are on that pretty active every single day. So, and then our website is www.thecaliforniabeekeeper.com. And that's about it, man. It was a pleasure, man.
Well, thank you for coming on, everybody, tonight. And thank you, Jose. We're going to head off here. But I appreciate you all, and I hope you guys have a great night.